People were dancing at my funeral, not whispering, not crying quietly in corners. Dancing. Women were ululating near the gate. Men were laughing under a torn white funeral tent. Children were running between parked cars, chasing each other through the dust, as if death had not visited that house. Somebody was beating an empty cooking oil container like a drum. Somebody else was singing. And in the middle of all that noise, under a cheap brown coffin, polished to shine like expensive wood, I was lying there, dead. My name is Todini, and yes, that funeral was mine. Now I know what you're thinking. Why would some people look at a coffin and smile, as if the world had finally removed a burden from their shoulders? I asked myself the same question, but then again, I already knew the answer. Some people were dancing because they believed a bad man had finally left the earth. Others were dancing because they believed a redeemed man had finally gone home. And the painful truth is this: both groups had their reasons. Before I was the man they feared, I was a boy. Before my name became a warning in Mufakose, it was a prayer from an old woman's mouth. Before people called me thief, womanizer, criminal, troublemaker, monster, there was a time when I was loved. And that is where my story begins. Not with the coffin, not with the dancing, not with the people celebrating my death. It begins with the woman who gave me my name, my grandmother, Poterai. If you have ever been to a funeral in Zimbabwe, then you know death has its own sound. It is not always quiet. Sometimes death sounds like women singing hymns with tired voices. Sometimes it sounds like metal plates being washed behind the house. Sometimes it sounds like people arguing over firewood, salt, transport money, or who failed to contribute enough. Sometimes death sounds like relatives pretending to be united for one weekend, even though everyone knows they will start fighting before the grave soil dries. But my funeral was different. At my funeral, grief and celebration sat on the same reed mat. The house was in Mufakose, not far from the old roads where boys used to kick plastic balls until sunset. The yard was full. A funeral tent leaned to one side, tied with ropes to the juraro and the guava tree near the gate. Plastic chairs were arranged in rows, but most people were standing. Some came to mourn, some came to confirm. Some came because they had heard the news and wanted to see with their own eyes that Todini was truly gone. You know how people are. Death can turn even enemies into witnesses. Near the gate, a group of women sang loudly. Their voices rose above the murmurs, above the clatter of pots, above the cough of old men sitting under the shade. One woman danced with a white cloth in her hand. Another woman ululated. A young man near the road laughed and said, "At least Mufakose can sleep now." Someone told him to be quiet, but not because he was wrong, only because the coffin was nearby. Inside that coffin, I heard them, not with ears maybe, but I heard. Death is strange. You leave the body, but somehow the world's last words still follow you. And people always speak more honestly around the dead than around the living. At my funeral, some people remembered the worst of me. They remembered the doors I had broken, money I had stolen, women I had lied to, fights I had started, families I had disappointed. They remembered the years when I walked through Mufakose like a man with nothing left to lose. And that kind of man is dangerous. But others remembered a different Todini. They remembered a boy who used to greet elders with both hands, A boy who once helped old women carry buckets from the borehole. A boy who loved his grandmother so much that teachers used to say, that child was raised properly. They remembered the young man who had loved Precious. And maybe that was the problem. People never agree on the dead. One person's monster is another person's wounded child. One person's warning is another person's testimony. And me, I was all those things. That is why my funeral was not simple. That is why some people cried. That is why some people danced. That is why even as they lowered my coffin into the ground, some were whispering, "He suffered enough." And others were whispering, "He caused enough suffering." Both were true. But truth, when told from the end, becomes too easy. It becomes too clean, too neat. People look at a coffin and think they understand the life inside. They say, "He was bad," or "He changed," or "He deserved better," or "He got what was coming." But a human life is not a single sentence. A man is not only the worst thing he did, and he is not only the best thing people remember. A man is the whole road, the dust, the hunger, the love, the mistake, the wound, the choice, the regret. So let me take you back before the coffin, back before the police knew my name, back before love taught me how sweet life could be, and death taught me how cruel it was. Let me take you back to the beginning. I was born in Harare in the early years when Zimbabwe still carried hope like a new shirt. People were poor, yes, but many still believed tomorrow might come with shoes on its feet. People believed their children would go further than them. They believed education would open doors. They believed hard work still had ears. My mother believed that too. Her name was Memory. Memory was young when she carried me. Too young, some said. Too quiet, others said. But from the stories my grandmother told me, my mother had a soft laugh and stubborn eyes. She was the kind of woman who could suffer silently but still refuse to be defeated. She never got the chance to raise me. The day I was born, my mother died. That is the first thing I did in this world. I arrived and she left. People say babies do not know anything, but I've always wondered if my spirit felt it. If some part of me understood that my first breath had cost another person her last. Maybe that is why sadness followed me even in my happiest days. Maybe that is why I laughed too hard when love finally found me. Maybe that is why every good thing in my life always felt borrowed, like it could be taken back without warning. My father was already gone by then. Some said he ran away when he heard Memory was pregnant. Some said he had gone to South Africa and never came back. Others said he was still somewhere in Harare, living like a man who had no child. I never knew which version was true, and after some time, I stopped asking. A missing father becomes a wound you learn to walk with. At first you limp, then you adjust. Then one day, people think you are walking normally, but only you know where the pain sits. So there I was, a newborn baby, no mother, no father, no money. Only an old woman standing beside a grave holding a child she had not planned to raise. That woman was my grandmother, Poterai. She was my mother's mother. By the time I was born, she was already old enough for people to tell her to rest. Her hands had thick veins. Her back bent slightly when she walked. Her eyes were tired, but not empty. She had buried people before, but burying her own daughter and carrying home her daughter's child broke something in her. Still, she did not abandon me. At the funeral, relatives spoke many words. You know relatives. They always have advice when grief is fresh. Someone said, this child should go to his father's people. Someone else said, no, those people have already rejected him. Another said, Poterai is too old. How will she raise a baby? They spoke as if I was a sack of mealie that needed to be stored somewhere, as if grief had not already swallowed enough from that family. And my grandmother, holding me close to her chest, looked at them and said one thing, Todini, what shall we do? That is how I got my name, Todini. Not because she had no hope, but because life had asked her a question she could not answer. What shall we do with this child? What shall we do with this pain? What shall we do when death leaves a baby behind? My name was not just a name. It was a cry. It was confusion. It was grief. It was a prayer wearing human skin. And from that day, I belonged to her. My grandmother raised me in Mufakose. Our house was small, old and tired, but it had warmth in it. The walls had cracks that looked like dry river lines. The roof was asbestos, patched in places where rain used to sneak through. In winter, the rooms became cold enough to make your bones complain. In summer, the heat sat under the roof like punishment. But I loved that house because she was there. Poterai woke up before sunrise every day. Even when there was almost nothing to cook, she would still make fire as if a feast might appear out of obedience. Sometimes breakfast was tea without milk. Sometimes it was leftover sadza warmed with water. Sometimes it was nothing at all, and she would lie. Ijika mwanangu, I already ate. But I would see the hunger in her eyes. Children are not as foolish as adults think. I knew when she was pretending. I knew when she gave me the bigger piece. I knew when she slept early so she would not feel hunger moving inside her. But poverty is strange when love is present. You can lack many things and still not feel poor. I had no new shoes, no fancy lunchbox, no father to come to school meetings, no mother to clap when I passed. But I had Poterai. And a child, love can make even cracked walls feel safe. She told me stories at night. Stories about my mother. Stories about old Zimbabwe. Stories about clever hares, foolish hyenas, greedy chiefs, and children who disobeyed elders and made trouble on the dusty roads. Sometimes, when the candle was almost finished, she would talk about memory, my mother. She had your eyes, she would say. Then she would pause, not because the story had ended, because grief had entered the room. I never pushed her. Even as a child, I understood that some names must be touched gently. But I loved those moments. Every piece of my mother came to me through Poterai's mouth. Her laugh, her stubbornness, the way she used to sing when sweeping the yard, the way she once fought a neighbor's boy for insulting a smaller child. Through those stories, I built a mother I could never meet. And maybe that is why I listened so carefully, because when Poterai spoke, the dead came close. Sometimes she would touch my face while I was pretending to sleep. She would whisper prayers over me. She would ask God to protect me, to make me a good man, to keep my feet away from evil, to keep my hands clean, to let me grow into something better than the pain that brought me into the world. I heard those prayers, even when my eyes were closed. Maybe that is why, for many years, I tried to be good, not because I was perfect, but because I knew the old woman had bet her remaining strength on me, and I did not want her to lose. At school, I became the kind of child teachers trusted, the kind of child neighbors praised, the kind of child old women could send to the shops without counting the change twice. People would say, "Poterai raised that boy well." And when I heard those words, something in my chest would stand tall. Not for me, for her. Because every compliment I received belonged to my grandmother. She had taken a child born from death and wrapped him in love. But love cannot stop everything. It can protect a child from hunger sometimes. It can protect a child from loneliness sometimes. It can even make poverty feel less cruel. But love cannot always stop the knife life is sharpening in another room. And mine was already being sharpened. I did not know it then. I was just a boy in Mufakose. A boy who loved his grandmother. A boy who believed goodness was enough. A boy who thought pain was something people survived and left behind. I did not know pain could follow you. I did not know love could open a door that grief would use to enter. And I did not know that one day, the same people who praised Poterai for raising me well would stand in her yard and dance near my coffin. That was my world. A tiny house in Mufakose, a grandmother with tired hands, stories by candlelight, football in dusty streets, tea without milk, sadza stretched beyond its strength, and love strong enough to make poverty feel smaller. In life, if life had stopped there, maybe I would have become a teacher, maybe a footballer, maybe just an ordinary man with an ordinary wife and ordinary children. There is beauty in ordinary things, but life was not finished with me. It was still sharpening its knife, and the blade had a name: Precious. Next time, you will meet Precious Dube, the girl who made me believe life could finally become beautiful. But beauty attracts dangerous people. And somewhere inside Mufakose, a boy named Brighton Manyika was already watching. Quiet boys are dangerous, especially the ones raised by monsters. If you want to understand why people danced at my funeral, follow this story to the end, because the man in the coffin was not always a monster, and the boy who became one was once someone's beloved child.